IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
This is Storytellers and Story Sellers live on tape. You're listening to Vineet Kanabar on the IVM Podcast Network. And we've got a very special guest on this episode. We're talking to someone who spends his time in the movie making business at the helm of one of India's most promising movie producers. Please say hello to Siddharth Anand Kumar from Yoodlee Films. Hi, Siddharth.
Hi.
Wonderful to have you on the show. Like I mentioned, I want to talk to you about so many things that are going on with the movie making business right now. It's a crazy time, it's an interesting time, it's a promising time, and it's a difficult time all at once. I want to speak to you about how it is that you do what you do at Yoodlee, right? The outsized impact that Yoodlee has had on culture in the last few years. I also want to know where you are in your initial aim of making 100 films in 5 years. And we want to have some conversations which are forward-looking about what lies next in Yoodlee's journey in the Indian movie making business. All of that we'll hear from Siddharth Anand Kumar from Yoodlee Films right after this break. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is Storytellers and Story Sellers, back after these short messages.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
And we're back on this brand new episode. We're talking to Siddharth Anand Kumar from Yoodlee Films about the outsized impact, like I mentioned, of Yoodlee Films on Indian movie making. Siddharth, I want to get started by asking you a report card question. 100 films in 5 years was the stated aim. In 2017, I think that was when the genesis of Yoodlee happened. Where are you on that journey?
So we're on film number 23.
Right.
We are also making 2 series right now. And you know, the way I look at a series is 2 episodes is roughly equivalent to the effort in a film.
Right.
So if I add another 8 films to that, our number would be 31.
Right.
So yeah, we didn't make 100. I don't think we were ever looking to make 100. It was an aim that we gave ourselves, going by the old adage that if you want to reach the moon, you should aim for the stars. But I do think, given the fact that we have made, I would say, 22 films, not counting the series now, in a span of 4.5 years, that does put us amongst one of the more prolific studios in the country.
Absolutely.
Because unlike other studios, so, you know, if you look at a T-series, the numbers would be bigger. We are producing every film ourselves.
Right.
We develop every film ourselves. We bring the talent in. We make the talent partner with us on a profit share basis, as well as giving them fees. And we then release that movie, sometimes theatrically, sometimes on OTT. So we are actually handling the efforts of a studio as well as a creative production house,
right,
within one format. The reason for doing this, obviously, is because when we started, SaReGaMa is a public limited company. We are working on public funds. We have a befittingly conservative approach to risk in that sense.
Right.
And, the need also to take public money and to enter into the filmmaking business is always risky.
Right.
Because the filmmaking business is the kind of business that, investors are always a little wary of. It's traditionally not seen as a business which has any method to the madness. It's only madness. Right. And of course, very famously, large enterprises have come to India and lost a lot of money and quit and left and floundered along the way. So if we come to the report card idea, what are some of the very innovative things we did? One was that, like I said, we do not respect stardom within our films.
Right.
What typically happens, for the sake of a lay person listening, is that if a film's budget is X, a big star could very well be taking 4X as their own fees in a film.
Right.
So that's a very, very disproportionate or asymmetric sort of take that the big star takes.
Absolutely.
And then you're also forced, because you're now spending a lot of money on one particular aspect, you're forced to make a film that caters to the brand image of that star.
Right.
So if the star is known for action, you will make an action film. So scope for innovation goes out. You start spending money on a lot of things which are not necessarily on the screen.
Right.
Entourage costs and so on and so forth. So that was one of the main innovations we took on. Another place a lot of studios, I think, lose budget is that they allow some other company to come and take line production.
Right.
Right. We've not done that. So we've actually tried to build every capacity in-house. So we have a team of line producers who are employed by SaReGaMa, who work on each and every Yoodlee film. So this makes sure that we are not giving out 5 to 10% of money to another company, which is actually picking up no risk, but is spending the money.
Right.
Right. And thereby we have managed to control costs very tightly. Another innovation has been that, one, we work with a lot of first or second time directors. In fact, most of our work happens with first or second time directors. So we serve as a talent discovery platform. And these people are brought in on a slightly lower upfront cost,
right,
which is a fee, in lieu of profit share. So SaReGaMa is a royalty paying company. It's also, or public limited. It is audited. We have a large amount of royalty payment that goes out from our company. We've used that same sort of genetic framework to the movie business.
Super interesting.
And we've actually, and I'm very proud to tell you, a lot of our filmmakers have received profit share payments from us. So that system is robust and it works, and it allows us to keep our upfront costs as low as possible. Again, the intention is to focus on the film.
Right.
We also then, like I said, we take risks, but we take them conservatively. We started with lower budget films, very much in the indie space. Right. So our risks were lower and our capacity to make films faster was definitely there in terms of scale. But the market has evolved. And as the OTT, and I'm sure you'll ask more questions about that, as the OTT world has sort of matured, I think now there's a greater demand for recognizable faces. I would still not call them stars because they're not at 4x the cost of production.
Right.
But recognizable faces and genre-based films.
Right.
Because you would notice, at least I do as a consumer, when I watch a film. So let's say I get onto a platform, I try to gauge my mood. मेरे को comedy देखना है, मेरे को action देखना है, मेरे को horror देखना है, and then I'll go to those buckets and try and pick up a film.
Right.
So I think that kind of consumer behavior and the way you interact with an OTT platform has led to OTT platforms also understanding that films need to be made in genre buckets.
Right.
And most of indie cinema falls under the broad genre bucket of drama. Right. So interest in drama, I think, is waned over time. And interest in genre films, comedy, action, thriller, horror, action adventure has grown. Right, where I would say drama has become relegated to coming of age, which also we've done a lot of. So two of our national award-winning films, Hamid and KD, were both coming of age films.
Right.
So I think we've also evolved a long time. So what's happened to us as a report card? Yes, 22 films made in 4 years. Most of them have had very quick from green light to delivery to the audience. So that phase is around a year for most of our films, which is a very short amount of time given what a film usually takes. We've worked in multiple Indian languages, English as an Indian language, Hindi, of course, Marathi, Tamil, and Malayalam. Right. These are the languages we've worked in.
Right.
Like I mentioned to you before we started recording, we have some Punjabi films in our upcoming slate as well. So that's another part of the report card. So I feel we've done a fairly decent job. I was very flattered to hear you say that we've made a cultural impact. Anybody who works in the culture business would like to. And, I've never acknowledged that or felt that, but it was great to hear you say that. So thank you for that.
No, thank you for putting out in such clear terms what the innovation and the impact that you've made. I mean, like I said, I think what the viewer gets to see of show business is only just the tip of the iceberg, right? And it's a complex business. To quote something that I'd heard a long time ago, if you want to turn a billionaire into a millionaire, ask them to make a movie. It's a complex business. It's a losing business in most cases. And to come in and innovate the value chain, to innovate within the pipeline, to innovate within the talent industry is not just something that the consumer is asking for, but I think it's also the industry that's screaming out for it as well. And kudos to you for doing that, right? I mean, I remember being super excited when I first saw the trailer of Ajji way back when, and Bila is a old colleague and friend, and look where he's at now when from those days, right? So there's certainly merit in your method, seeing that everyone from Arjun Mathur, Abhishek Banerjee, Rasika Duggal, Jitendra Kumar, Nidhi Singh, all of these names who featured in your movies are either more and more recognizable or on their way to becoming legitimate mainstream stars on their own right. What I want to ask you, Siddharth, is you talked about content-driven, star-driven films, right? You talked about star-driven, and it's not just a creative strategy, it's also a marketing strategy, right? Having a Varun Dhawan or a Shah Rukh Khan or Katrina Kaif or whoever else in your movie doesn't just increase the budget, but it also increases what kind of take or how many theaters it might go into, etc., etc., etc. Help me understand how you stay away from the lure of doing that, and what thought process, what strategy goes into making your film, so selecting what gets made or how you greenlight stuff, right? So two questions in one, really. How do you stay away from the lure of doing this? Because if you've got a great story, for example, right? And I mean, I'm sure you've done this a long time. You know that a story can be scaled up or scaled down depending on what is available in the package, right? How do you stay away from the lure of that? And then the sort of backward integrated question, which is, how do you pick your stories?
Okay, so our business, to come to address the stardom debate, our business has largely been till now oriented towards direct to digital movies. Right. So number of screens, which is a contention for most other producers who are not producing direct to digital, is not a contention for us.
Right.
So the exact popularity of the actor doesn't quite count.
Sure.
Though that's a very broad point. When you look at that's a black and white thing. When you look at all the grays in the middle, it does.
Right.
So,
I mean, when you look at Amazon going out and giving Salman Khan 300 crores or something like that, right? I mean, of course, it's because he's Salman Khan.
The pandemic has changed a lot, but I think these are lessons that we've all learned along the way. They're here to stay.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I'll generalize a little bit right now.
Sure thing.
But for our business, since we have designed the business so far to be a direct to digital business, the exact stardom of an actor does not matter.
Right.
But the weightage, the percentage of the budget that, so it's a bit of a utopian idea. If I tell you, the writing and directing should be 10% of the overall money I spend on a film. All the cast should be 20 to 25% of the money I spent on a film. Right. So we've actually got these ratios in mind.
Right.
And we have them written down in an internal document that we follow. So that is one easy way to resist the lure of somebody who's going to cost me 1x or 2x or 3x of the budget of the film.
Let me stop you there and ask you this. Is that a revolutionary idea in Indian filmmaking?
Well, it's an idea. I was taught in film school in the US.
Right.
I don't know. It's a revolutionary idea in any sort of commercial art. Okay?
Right.
Because the main thing is to increase your reach.
Right.
And to increase your reach, you want to go directly to the person who's got a bigger reach than you, or the biggest reach possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. But what you end up doing then is working within an established system. Okay. And then you are going to be another cog in that massive machinery. Our intention at SaReGaMa was to create long-lasting IP for the company.
Right.
Okay. Is not obviously to be fiscally prudent and not make losses on the films, which is why the direct-to-digital strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But to create IP that lasts over a long time. Now, what happens with culture is that a very big star becomes very big because he or she is fulfilling a certain brand image,
right,
which might not be their exact personality.
Sure.
So Shah Rukh is a romantic hero. Salman is the action hero. Amir Khan is, the slightly off-kilter, thinking message-based or, slightly more complex narrative hero. So when you are doing that, you are you're working within a system that already exists.
Right.
Our task when we set up Yoodlee was to see if we could disrupt that system.
Sure.
And the management at SaReGaMa is very clear about being disruptive in terms of how any business is basically thought of in the very architecture of that particular business vertical. So that has become the DNA of SaReGaMa, right? So our first intention was to not just do business as usual, जो चल रहा है उसी में हाथ डालें और invest करें पैसा बहुत सारा and carry the amount of risk that entails. Our job was that can we create a model which is a little on the side? Right. So that naturally tells you, okay, resist the lure, like you said, to use your words, of making a big staff. So what kind of film do we make? This is the second question that you asked. Right. So our answer to that, we started with a slightly more, I would say, naive way. We said that we will make films either based on true stories or based on works of literature in the public domain. Okay. The reason being is that we thought that these would lead to long tail relevance of the story. Okay. Later, as we kept working, so for instance, Ajji was a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood.
Right.
Okay. So it was always envisioned as that. Brij Mohan was a retelling of a true story that had happened with a guy in Delhi who was finally caught in Bangalore.
Right.
And then we added on the bit that, he's been accused of his own murder because we wanted to satirize the story. Eventually, what we got to was the idea of having a very strong thematic spine to every story on the basis of which we will pick the story.
Right.
So let's talk about Ajji, for instance.
Sure.
Right? Ajji, the thematic spine was an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind.
Right.
And how do we define thematic? That is also written in an internal document. It is a cliched philosophical idea that you are going to examine from as many sides as possible, like you look at a Rubik's Cube, right? Over the course of the narrative. So almost every scene, whether it should stay in the film or not, or in the script or not, is weighed against its ability to reflect upon that thematic.
Right.
Okay. Hamid, the thematic is that if you know your enemy, if you talk to your enemy, then you will form compassion and you can't be enemies anymore.
Right.
Again, a cliched notion, right? Zombie, which is an unreleased film.
Right.
It's a zombie comedy, right? But what is the comedy about? The comedy is about, and it started from a pitch by a young writer who works in-house in Yoodlee. Okay. And his idea was that why do we have a separate glass of water for the courier boy and the nanny who comes to, the maid who comes to wash the house, right? So are we giving them resources which are worse than the ones we're keeping for ourselves?
Right.
Now, what if those resources which you're passing down to them, let's say you're upstream and they're downstream, are polluted somehow and they're making them zombies?
Right.
So it's actually a class war more than a zombie film.
Right. Love it.
Right. So all of our films, even the ones that we have made as commissioned projects for digital platforms, have always carried a sense of thematic. And eventually, if many years later, someone is to look back at what we've done at Yoodlee at this point, which I think is also part of what we're discussing here, the idea should be now, so you create a brand, right? So if you look at a Yash Chopra, he was known for a brand of romantic cinema.
Absolutely.
And so is Yash Raj by default. Of course, they've changed that over time now to become blockbuster.
Right.
But it started with romance. RGV's Factory, which was very relevant when I was a starter in the film industry, was something, it was making this sort of edgy, cool, youthful cinema.
Yeah.
Based around violence, basically, right? It was about violence. So,
sort of film noir updated for Bombay.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. This desi violent film.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Yoodlee is making thematic films, right? And now we face the additional challenge, like I said briefly in the last question, as things are evolving and we're being forced to make more and more genre films. We are facing the challenge of having to bring this idea of thematic spine in a movie to this genre film, right? So we're working on an action series right now, which is very interesting. It's got Sunil Shetty starring in it, and it's basically a noir series about a Mumbai cop. Now we've done 1,000 stories about Mumbai cops. Crime is a great genre because it sells.
Absolutely.
But it's not such a great genre because I think everything has been mapped out in crime.
Right.
So we started with this idea of, a cop is a person like we always had this notion, and might be insulting to cops, but please take it in the right vein, that a cop is like a janitor.
Right.
Okay. His job is wherever humans go and create a mess, the cop has to go and clean up after them.
Right.
Okay. So we started with this lovely line, which I think is a Winston Churchill line. Of course, it would need a Google for me to be sure. But it says you can't wrestle with pigs and not get dirty.
Right.
Okay. So that's the thematic spine that this very noir series rests on.
Right.
And over the course of the 8 episodes, we will examine that notion in every way. So there's a voiceover that the characters, and I'm a great fan of telling your thematic to your audience as many times as possible.
Right.
Because we really live in an ADD era, right? Attention deficit disorder. So if a person has 2 seconds, they'll pick up their phone. We can't concentrate on things. I've noticed this in my own life. So you need to say the thematic over and over again. I think one of the first things you hear in that series is कि मुंबई में जब बारिश गिरती है ना, तो ऊपर से चीजें साफ होती है, लेकिन नीचे से गंद निकलती है. Right. So again, it's that thematic. It's that thematic of a person who is indulging in cleanup actually has to become dirty himself.
Right. I love it.
So it's again, am I saying we're making the most innovative cop show ever? No, perhaps not. Right. But we are going to come at it with a relentless attention, to thematic.
Got it.
And I think that eventually will create a brand image, and already kind of has. Sitting in Yoodlee, from the inception to now, I can't tell what is the perception from outside. You would know that more, or somebody who's done a little bit of research would know that more. But I do hope that when you look at this collection of, 20 to later on 30, 40, however many films we make, it will be that, yes, there was this thematic impact to everything. In fact, yesterday, one of my team members was quoting a critic that I'm very fond of, Rahul Desai.
Mm-hmm.
He's given sort of lukewarm reviews to our last 2 films. Okay.
Right.
But in both, he said that the intent stands out very clearly.
Right.
So for instance, 200 Halla Ho, which is a film based on a true story.
Was a smashing story. I mean, I've read about it. Haven't seen it yet. But the story seems smashing. I think the thematic there, again, I'm sure will stand out like crazy.
Exactly. So I'm saying no matter what happens to the making of the film,
right?
Okay? And sometimes you fail because filmmaking is very, well, like you've said yourself, it's very complex machine to put into place. So sometimes maybe the aesthetics are not to your liking or my liking or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But even this critic, Rahul, has been able to identify that the thematic values are very sound in the films.
Right.
And that's why I say I respect this guy, because many times I agree with him, even if he's giving me a lukewarm review. But I agree with him that, yes, okay, maybe, our execution could have been a little better. We're making this stuff in the pandemic. It's very hard to get a crowd of 500 people. You have all sorts of problems that we're dealing with right now. But the script will have that thematic, and that thematic will be served to you again and again. Like, beta muh kholo, ye lo. So, that kind of thing, I think, will continue to distinguish our work.
I love it. And shout out to Rahul Desai. I think he's one of the few really accomplished critics we have. I've had my fair share of disagreements with him, especially about TVF shows, but I can never say that his reviews are unfair. He's very perceptive in that sense.
He's got a perspective, and I think he puts it out well. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's any truth. And my 80-year-old child is being taught this in school, that everything is an opinion.
Right.
So I think if you learn that, then you don't. His truth, he says it's something let's say lukewarm, who wants to say shitty.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean it is actually shitty. But at least he has the intellectual capacity to present his argument in a very, very interesting, entertaining, and fun way. So kudos to that.
Wonderful. All this talk of thematic took me back to an essay I'd read about American television by this guy called David Foster Wallace, where he talks about TV or entertainment used to be something with which it was a prism to look at society, right? More and more in the 21st century, at least, it's just a thing. No prism anymore. You're not being able to reflect upon something that's happening around you in a meaningful manner, right? I mean, sure, many would disagree, but largely, I think this has come out to be the truth. I think what you said about the thematic and about feeding that thematic to the audience takes me back to thinking that, hey, here's a creator, here's a producer who's trying to do that, right? Use storytelling as a prism to reflect back on society, which is a very interesting way of selecting movies. And I think kudos to you for being able to do that. And kudos to you for sticking to your convictions around that. On that note, I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be back to talk more about the movie business in 2021 with Siddharth Anand Kumar. Back on Storytellers and Storysellers right after these messages.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Ayushi are in conversation with journalist Pallavi Iyer. They talk about her having lived in so many different cities, adulting through it all, and what motherhood means to her and how young folk can lead better lives and support the nation's progress. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth asks if energy management is just a better way of time management. Tune in to find out if this is practical and possible. On Khel Niti, Rajiv Mishra, Ayaz Memon and Sabah Karim talk about Team India's elimination from the T20 World Cup, Pakistan's new team and New Zealand stepping into the semi-finals. On Smile India, Shifa discusses a Kolkata-based NGO that's trying to help single-screen cinema survive. And on Hansvani, hear the story Mere Liye Ek Minute and find out why a depressed man mourns his own death by observing silence for a whole minute. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And do follow us on YouTube. We have a number of different channels. You can find them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, where you'll be able to take a look at all of the channels we have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much. You make this possible.
And we're back. This is Storytellers and Storysellers. You're listening to Vineet Kanaba talk to Siddharth Anand Kumar from Yoodlee Films. Siddharth, I want to tell you something very interesting that Yoodlee has in common with me. 2019, I think it was, you made a film called Ashcharya Fuck It. And everywhere on social, my handle is Ashcharya Fuck It. So if you,
really?
It is indeed. And independently came up with it around the same time. I know Amrit and Vaibhav for a while as well. Yeah. And it's a strange coincidence that this is how it is, but yeah, that's something I have in common with Yoodlee Films. Let me ask you this, and we talked about this very briefly. The pandemic has changed everything, right? I think it's overused to say it's unprecedented times, but in the movie business, it truly is unprecedented times, right? I found myself opening up Book My Show every third day to be like, bhai, kab jaun? Right? And my wife and I are that set of people who necessarily need to watch a movie either Friday evening or Saturday morning. We want to watch a movie, right? We go watch a movie, spend some time shopping, and that's our sort of de-stressing, right? It's not happened for a long time, and I'm feeling the gap, even though everything I want to watch under the sun is now in my hands, a small remote and the internet, right? How has it changed life for you at Yoodlee? I know you were ahead of the curve in the direct to streaming into that pathway, but how has the pandemic changed things for you?
So yeah, I would say it's put a pause on a certain evolution that we were trying to lead at Yoodlee. Mm-hmm. When you make a direct to digital film, you remain a B2B business, which is a business that is serving another business, because you are creating content and licensing it to another business that becomes the interface with the consumer. Like you yourself were saying, it's very hard to tell what content has actually worked because platforms are very obtuse when they're sharing information with producers, right? And those reasons are also there because they're trying to raise money from, the stock market or other sort of investors, and they don't necessarily need to, at this point, reveal what is actually happening inside. Right. So there's no clear way to gauge whether your film is working or not, and there's no clear way to really build a brand.
Right.
Like I told you, we take conservative risks at SaReGaMa. So part of that evolution is to make bigger films and to try and own the consumer to whatever extent we can.
Right.
Without becoming a platform ourselves, because we are a content creating company.
Right.
We are not a platform. Right. So one of the ways which exists in the film business is to go directly to the consumer via the medium of theaters. So we very lovingly produced our zombie film, Zombie Willy, which we shot in the midst of the pandemic last year, hoping that jaise hi khulega, hum release karenge.
Right.
But that evolution for us has been delayed. However, we've seen the results of this kind of filmmaking, and we have great conviction with that film.
Right.
So we have gone ahead and produced or signed now and are producing another 5 regional films, 3 in Malayalam, 2 in Punjabi, which are all destined for theatrical.
Right.
So one way that the pandemic has, I would say, changed life for us is to pause this development that we're having. like you said earlier, we were already a bit ahead of the curve, perhaps. It's a great position to be in. And we were already producing direct to digital content. So that work has not changed for us. In fact, during the pandemic, we've had 4 films released, if I'm not mistaken, which is probably more than any other big studio or businesses that are way larger than Yoodlee have done, right? So we've been quite prolific through that process. So therefore, not much has changed for us. We've done the same numbers we expected last year, and we're going to do better numbers this year. But I think for the industry at large, things have changed. I think today we are re-looking at what it means to be a star. We're re-looking at, listen, even if you go to the biggest star, he will say, "Mujhe content cinema chahiye."
Right.
Give me something which is great that I can sink my teeth in. Thing to say, very hard thing to live by. But I think that is also changing. I think our definitions of that are better. I think Indian filmmaking as a craft is learning to compete with what's happening in the rest of the world, which it wasn't so far, because we have such a big domestic market that we can be perfectly satisfied serving that.
Right.
Which used to happen in the 90s. And, even I would say 10 years ago, we were making cinema, which was not of international quality.
For sure.
Today, everyone's trying to do that. You feel you could have a legit breakout success, like you kind of did with Sacred Games. Now, I don't know if it was only hype or if it was really true, because I'm not living in a foreign country, right?
Sure.
So I don't really know what that was.
No, but there has definitely been a step up, right? I think
exactly.
More exposure. The same guy living. I'm from Nagpur, for example. My dad will watch, I don't know, Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Then he will also watch the Avengers, and then he will also watch foreign shows. And the same guy getting exposed to other things, I think it generally lifts the tide lifts all boats in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
So I think that's changing for everybody. And I'm very gratified to hear you talk about you and your wife and how, going to the cinema physically is a ritual for you. It is for me and my wife as well. So I think that aspect of it, that, when something is taken away from you, you really begin to miss it.
Absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that this is going to be a driving factor once the government allows theaters to open. In their wisdom, they haven't, which is odd to me, because flights are going on and trains are going on, and, you're in much closer proximity, in these things than you are in a cinema hall. I mean, a cinema hall, firstly, has got much more cubic volume of air, per person. So I don't know how all of this works. And
super surprising, because we went to watch a movie in April when theaters had opened for a little bit.
Yeah.
At the time when the rest of the world wasn't open, and then to still continue to have it shut 6 months down the line from there, it's very odd. And like I said, I'm like I would say like a junkie going back to book my show every couple of days and be like, kab. But I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. I hope it opens up sooner. We're definitely missing something in our lives there.
Yeah. I mean, we have very exciting plans to do Broadway-style renditions of famous Hindi films.
Right.
And we've been working on one on Disco Dancer.
Right.
Imagine Disco Dancer being performed live for you with the entire story and all the songs and all the singing and dancing. So that has also unfortunately got interrupted by the pandemic. We're hoping we'll start it again, once things get normalized. And hopefully they will. Let's see. We seem to be doing okay right now.
Yeah. So fingers and toes crossed that it continues.
Yeah. So I think these are some of the changes which we look forward to. In any case, with the advent of OTT, what was happening is you were already seeing pre-pandemic a sort of divergence between what films naturally go to OTT, what films naturally go to theater.
Right.
And all of us in the business, I know because I'm in these discussions all the time, the moment we read something, are trying to gauge, should this be theatrical or should this be direct to digital? And scale, and not just scale, but there are many other factors that we consider. For instance, comedy is one of those things that we really believe is theatrical, because it needs to be seen with other people, strangers in a room, so that those vibes are transmitting to you. It makes something which is half funny much funnier.
Absolutely.
Because you're hearing other people laugh, which is why in TV they invented the laugh track.
Absolutely.
Because you're viewing it privately. So I think these things, we're all grappling with, we're like monkeys been given a new toy, which is the OTT world, right? So we're all trying to figure out how it will work and what will work in that. And I think we're very early days right now.
Let me ask you this, a very specific thing, and we can double click on this a little bit. You said it was a B2B endeavor, selling to a platform, right? How does valuation then work, right? Because, and humor me for a second, I think in the previous calculus of selling movies, music rights, OTT rights, satellite rights, or whatever, would be the chunk that would make up your money, right? I think that's how usually most people would see it. In this new world, how does this work? I mean, can you go in and say, hey, I made a film for, I don't know, 8 crore rupees, but you have to pay me 20 crore rupees. How do you justify that?
So, like all pricing in any marketplace, the justification, you would love for the pricing to have a logical justification, and it often doesn't, right? I mean, whether it's stock valuations or what people get paid sometimes, it never has a value. So it's a perceived value for the business at that point of time.
Sure.
Okay. So again, now I don't know this, I'll speculate with you. So I'm running a platform. I've been given a certain budget. I've been given a certain aim. Usually the aim is to increase subscribers.
Right.
Okay? Which I think has led to a few faulty decisions. Right? Because when you tell me to increase subscribers, the first thing I'll say is, Vineet and Sid are already subscribing. So, I need to go after a guy sitting, on the outskirts of Nagpur, not a guy in Nagpur. Right. So what will appeal to him? One star will appeal to him with an action film. So let me make that. Right. So reductive thinking comes in.
Absolutely.
Then if you have already made one with that star, I'll say, why should I make it? I'm here buying dekha hua mal, and I have a need to feed this crazy monster, which is an OTT platform. So I'll give you a slight premium on that.
Right.
Okay. Before the pandemic, my feeling always was that a platform buyer is trying to evaluate कि आपने कितने में बनाई होगी picture.
Right.
मुझे अच्छी लगी है, so I'll try to pay you a little less than what you made, which is just good business, right? From their side.
Bilkul.
So one of the things that we've always tried to do, and any producer tries to do, a film should look bigger than the money you spent on it. And I think a lot of effort from a producer's point of view, and that's part of your podcast series, what does a producer do is not just putting in the money, it's making sure that 1 rupee looks like 10 rupees. Right? So that when this kind of valuation is happening later in the marketplace, you're able to get something which is going to give you a good margin.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Yes.
So I think those are the basic criteria to answer your question. That I hope I've covered it.
No, you did. I think, I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it as well. It gives a sense of how the producer is creating with pricing in mind as well, which is definitely something that's very insightful. Let me ask you this, and we spoke about this very briefly. I mean, while we tend to perceive other language cinema as chota hai, alag hai, haan, market hai, kahin kuch hai, it's not like that. Right? They are living their own life cycles, which are at times faster or further ahead than where Hindi cinema or Bollywood, quote unquote, is at. What's your outlook on this? I know you said you have a slate of Punjabi films coming out. You've dabbled in a few others as well. What's your view on the multilingual cinematic landscape that we live in? Specifically, what I want to know is, do you think there is a large market for other films to come into the Hindi viewing audience? And I'm sure Hindi viewing audiences get dubbed, but where does this leave us with so many films getting made in other markets, them also making films that are great to look at, great storytelling, doing well in the international sphere? But what about the Indian market? And do you think we'll see a multilingual Indian market in the next few years?
So I'll try and unpack this question in many ways. And we've been debating this over the last year because, like I mentioned briefly, we're making a big thrust into regional cinema, where I personally believe as a viewer that the innovation levels of Malayalam cinema are just like off the hook. And you're seeing that now, I think. So what OTT has done is two very interesting things. For educated audiences, like the director of Parasite had said, if you can get over that 1-inch hurdle of the subtitle, you'll be exposed to a whole new world. So I think they've learned that. So, people who would not have had access or the intent to watch regional cinema have realized that innovations are happening, and we'll discuss why innovations are happening. I believe there's a specific reason.
Sure.
Okay? Their cinema is more innovative for a specific reason. The second thing is, I think we've all realized as Indians that one, we are a subcontinent, which we were taught in geography, but kabhi samajh mein nahi aaya. Okay. Secondly, we have a multiple of languages in our country, and people actually love their vernacular language.
Right.
Okay.
It's a massive identity driver, right? The moment you see
growing also.
Yeah.
I think just like when you're seeing so many patriotic films work and even jingoistic films work,
Right.
I think what's happening is we as a culture are shedding our post-colonial hangover.
Right.
Okay? So when I was growing up 40 years ago in Delhi, speaking Hindi was a sign that you are lower class.
Right.
Right? You spoke English, and you had Rapidex English speaking course, which was being advertised all over. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
English was a sign of status.
My mom is a spoken English teacher right now. She was a teacher for 25 years, but she still teaches spoken English.
So it's still a business, viable
absolutely,
business. Right?
Absolutely.
But while that is there, I think there's been a greater acceptance of our identity as Indians, and therefore there's been a greater need for us to connect with entertainment in our vernacular language, whether it's regional music, regional literature, which is growing, or regional filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that I think is a general, broader India-wide cultural phenomenon that's happening.
Right.
Okay, and then there are Hindi people like us who are watching things because now we have the ability, including my dad and I'm sure your dad. Right.
Right.
Why is regional cinema, and the third part of it, why is regional cinema more innovative? So I think that a big star in, let's say, a regional film would cost 1x of the COP. Remember, I said a big star in a Hindi film would cost 4x of the COP.
Right.
So that's a big difference.
Right.
Okay. So I believe their stars are better priced.
Right.
And it's just like buying a stock. Sometimes the stock is overvalued. Sometimes it's at the right value. If you buy it at the wrong value, you will lose money. If you buy it at the right value, you will gain money.
Right.
Second factor that affects it is that to market a film pan-India, okay, even to market a film in busy spaces like Delhi and Mumbai, you need a lot of money.
Right.
According to me, an average good P&A budget, promotion and advertising for a Hindi film would be anywhere from 15 to 20 crores.
Right.
Okay. The best budget for a regional film, which is talking to one specific region, is 1 crore.
Right.
Okay. So the fact that these two very significant costs are substantially lower in regional cinema as compared to Hindi cinema or pan-Indian cinema has allowed that industry to undertake more innovative kinds of filmmaking.
Right.
Okay. Now that audiences are maturing very fast due to OTT.
Right.
Okay. I think the need for innovative cinema, because what do you want as an audience? You want kuch naya.
Bilkul.
First thing, kuch naya do hai. Right? So I think that need is growing. And therefore, again, there's a little bit of further impetus on regional cinema.
Love it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's about time that these regional stories are put in front of so many people. I mean, I've seen a fair few of these in the past few years. And like I said earlier, it feels like the economics of it is driving the innovation. And finally, there is a very receptive audience for it as well, right? An audience that is trained to watch a Korean film, knows that the quality parameters of a Korean film, the story parameters of a Korean film can now also be found in a Kannada film, for example, or a Malayalam film. Opens up a whole new world for them as well. Fascinating conversations. That to bring this to an end, I want to ask you one final question and then take you to my very famous Water with Vineet section. Obviously, it has nothing to do with any other show, any other talk show you've heard of. It's a completely original concept. But before that, what lies ahead for Yoodlee? You're a year away from turning 5, and then there's a whole many other years to come after that. What lies ahead?
So I think what you see ahead is we're starting to make a lot of series.
Right.
And we're developing them in our own style. We've got a series in Malayalam, which we're making, which is an anthology series based on one of the greatest living writers in Malayali literature. He's called MTV Nair. So we've got the rights of his short stories. I'm hoping it will turn out to be a sort of Malgudi Days sort of show.
Right.
So that could be very interesting. It's very rooted, very rural, and very humanistic in the sense that MTV Nair really examines the grays that lie between the black and white of human life, you know. So we've got that. We've got a straight up mad action series with Sunil Shetty. My elevator pitch for that has always been, here's a cop who starts investigating the grimy world of organ trafficking.
Right.
And, midpoint through the show, he wakes up with both his kidneys been taken out, and now he has to find his own kidneys. So, again, that's why the noir thing, because this can't really happen.
Right.
Medically, you cannot survive
Of course.
and fight with both your kidneys removed. But, in this sort of comic book world that we're creating, it's possible. So it's like a comic book series.
Yeah, there's a mandatory iPhone 13 joke there. I have to leave in there.
Yeah.
I sold it. I'm joking. But yeah, please go on.
Right. We are doing 3 very, very interesting films in Malayalam.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing 2 films in Punjabi. The first one is set around the world of truck drivers. And, I think even within the context of a Punjabi film, it's a very, very unique kind of setting and a very unique kind of person who spends most of his time on the road, crossing various places and having all sorts of adventures. So it's a love story of a truck driver, And we have a couple of other very interesting series. We're also now, I think, at a position where we're going to start unpacking the amazing catalog we have at SaReGaMa of music and using that to make films and series out of.
Right.
For instance, I don't know, I've been fascinated with this project for a long time, which is how Pakiza got made.
Right.
It was a 16-year-long obsession. And the way I look at it is, it's almost like you equate Kamal Amrohi to a Shah Jahan. And his love for Meena Kumari is such that he builds this monument, which is, in Shah Jahan's case, the Taj Mahal, immortal,
right.
monument in stone. And this guy built Pakiza, which is an immortal monument in celluloid.
Right.
Now, what if we were to tell you that story? We have the music. We can get access to the amazing stories because Kamal Amrohi's son is, able to tell you what all transpired while that film was being made. What happens when a film which could take, like I told you, a year, from basically conception to going to audience, what happens that it took 16 years to make, So we'll start as Yoodlee SaReGaMa to unpack these kind of things. I mean, we can tell you the story of Sahib. We have all his music, we have all his poetry, what was happening at that time. So I feel that's a great new space we could move into.
Absolutely.
And that's a space where, like in any business, you want a straight up competitive advantage. That's a space where being in SaReGaMa gives us an amazing competitive advantage. And as a person who grew up on Hindi films and has made my life's work, Bollywood, I think it's just a great thing to be able to do.
Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just talking about it with you and thinking about it is mouthwatering of the prospects. And I must commend you and Vikram sir about this, about the innovative streak that you guys have, right? I mean, you've done it with a product, and you've now done it with a production company. And I'm only hoping that you can continue on this, the project that you talked about, the Pakiza project. I mean, immediately in my head, it threw me Mank, the movie about how Citizen Kane got made, right? And I mean, it's such a treasure trove of shared history we all have, right?
Yeah.
As with the movies, right? And Star Sports does it very well with cricket, right? They've got all this packaging about cricket. Humne, matlab 80s World Cup mein ye hua, or 85 mein champion of champions ye hua. But we tend to not do it about our movies for some reason. And I'm only hoping that you stick it out and you do it, because all of these stories, I think, are vital, not just from a commercial point of view, but also from a cultural point of view. I think as our generations get exposed to global cinema and global content and global experiences, giving them something to moor themselves and to anchor themselves in our rich history, right? And all of this, I think it's super vital and super important. I'm going to take you to Water with Vineet. I have 3 short questions for you. You've to give me answers in a snap. When does Zombie Willy come out?
As soon as theaters open to 100%.
To 100%. So maybe in mid of next year, maybe.
Who can say? I have no idea, but I'm hoping much sooner. I'm hoping they should do that by January. There's no justification for keeping them shut, and 50% is absolutely no justification. It's bizarre.
Right.
It's as draconian as can be. So I'm hoping that they open up.
Yep, fingers crossed for that. Your personal favorite movies to watch for inspiration?
For inspiration?
Or for entertainment, or whatever. Personal favorite movies.
Movie, any crappy action film. That's what
you've got to name some.
Three. Well, okay. So I'll tell you some of my favorite films. They might not be crappy because actually, when I think of them, they're not crappy. So there's Saving Private Ryan, which I think is my number one favorite movie in the world. And you'll quickly know what era I'm from. Then there's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Once Upon a Time in the West, and Forrest Gump. These are films I can watch anytime. These are all. Love it. I love this kind of epic, big kind of film, even though I don't make it, but I like to watch it. As they say, a dealer doesn't do his own drugs.
I mean, for sure, man. But Robert Redford, Sergio Leone, all drugs indeed. Yeah. And 3 new talents that you're excited about.
3 new talents that I'm excited about. Well, we work with a very exciting music composer called Anshuman Mukherjee, who's part of Yoodlee's team. I'm very excited about the kind of music he makes. And I shouldn't only be promoting Yoodlee talent, but you're asking me for snap answers.
Right.
There's a very exciting young writer called Mahesh Iyer who works again at Yoodlee, who came up with Zombieville and was on the writing team. I'm very excited, to work with him. Who else? I think the director of Zombieville, Aditya Sarpotdar, who's done brilliant work already. He's not a new talent in any way, but I think he's really coming into his own strides and is doing some incredible work. So again, he's a guy I'll be watching out for. This is all stock I would buy if these guys were stocks. I can tell you that they're going to do very well going ahead. And I'm really happy that, we've crossed paths.
Love it. I mean, almost keeping to form, you didn't name any on-screen talent. No, but like I said, keeping to form. Love it, absolutely. Siddharth,
didn't Alfred Hitchcock say actors are cattle?
Oh, he did indeed. Little bit better, I'm guessing. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for spending time talking to me on Storytellers and Storysellers. To tell you what, I mean, while talking to you, it gave me vibes that Yoodlee was somewhere between early CAA and current A24, right? I was sort of a love child between these two, and I mean that as a highest compliment. I hope you have a lot of success making all the amazing movies that you're making, and I hope you had fun on this chat.
Yes, very much so. You've been a great host and very good to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's it from me, Vineet Kanabar, on this episode of Storytellers and Storysellers. Keep coming back for great chats with great people from the business of entertainment. If you liked this episode, give me a shout out or give a shout out to a Yoodlee film from 2019. I think it was. I'm at Ashcharya Fuck It on Instagram and Twitter, or you can just shout out to IVM Podcast if you don't like saying fuck. All right, that's it from me. This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.